Let me ask you a simple question. When was the last time you felt truly proud of your body? Not just in terms of how you look, but in how your body responds to life, how strong, reliable, and, let's say it, masculine you feel, even as the candles on your birthday cake keep multiplying. If you're a man over 60, you might have noticed that things below the belt aren't always what they used to be. Maybe you're finding it harder to achieve or maintain a firm erection, or perhaps intimacy feels more like a distant memory than a regular part of your life. If that's you, you're far from alone. In fact, this is one of the most common concerns my patients bring up, quietly, sometimes even sheepishly, across my 30-plus years as a urologist. My name is Dr. Nolan Easton, and if you've ever wished for a natural, satisfying way to boost your performance and confidence, today's topic is just for you. Now, before we dive into the science, let me tell you about a patient I'll call Bill. Bill is 68, a retired school principal, and as sharp and witty as they come. But when he first came to see me, he didn't seem himself. He sat across from me, fidgeting with his wedding ring, and after a bit of small talk, he said, "Doc, I'm not ready to hang up my boots. But my body isn't cooperating." Bill described what many men his age feel but are often too embarrassed to admit. A drop in confidence, less frequent and less satisfying intimacy with his wife, and, underneath it all, a nagging sense that maybe his best days were behind him. I'll be honest, I hear versions of Bill's story every single week. And if you're sitting at home nodding along, or maybe even feeling a bit anxious about your own performance, let me reassure you. There are practical, proven steps you can take, and they're often much simpler than you might expect. That's why, in today's video, I'm sharing what I recommend to men just like Bill. The best nuts for rock-solid erections after 60. Yes, you heard that right. We're talking about simple, delicious foods you can find at any grocery store, foods that have the potential to change your health, your confidence, and yes, your sex life. Now, why nuts? Well, if you've ever sat with a bowl of almonds or walnuts during a ball game or family gathering, you might not have realized you were actually holding a powerful tool for men's health. Research over the past decade has shown us that certain nuts are packed with nutrients that directly support blood flow, hormone balance, and nerve function, all critical pieces of the puzzle when it comes to healthy, satisfying erections. And unlike pills, potions, or risky procedures, adding these nuts to your daily routine is safe, affordable, and, let's be honest, pretty enjoyable. Before I get too deep into the science, I want you to think about this. What if something as simple as a handful of the right nuts each day could help you feel younger, more energetic, and more confident in the bedroom? That's not just wishful thinking. I've seen it firsthand, and the transformation can be incredible. Let's go back to Bill. When he first visited my office, his main concern was his relationship. He said, "Doc, my wife is as beautiful as the day I met her. But lately, I feel like I'm letting her down. I want to be there for her, and for myself." We talked honestly about his lifestyle, what he ate, how much he moved, and the stress he was feeling about aging. I explained that while medications have their place, sometimes the simplest changes make the biggest difference. When I told him about the power of nuts, he was skeptical at first. "You're telling me I need to eat more peanuts?" He laughed. "Not quite," I said, "but certain nuts can actually work wonders, if you know which ones and why." Now, I know some of you might be wondering, can a simple snack really make a difference? I promise you, I wouldn't share this advice if I hadn't seen it work over and over again. The key is understanding how blood flow works, especially as we age. Erections are, at their core, a function of healthy blood vessels. Over time, our arteries can stiffen, cholesterol can build up, and our bodies might not produce as much nitric oxide, a natural compound that helps blood vessels relax and fill with blood. This process is absolutely vital for getting and maintaining an erection. Here's the good news. Certain nuts are loaded with arginine, a building block for nitric oxide. Others are rich in healthy fats, antioxidants, and minerals like magnesium and zinc, which all support not just your heart, but your entire circulatory and hormonal system. And remember, what's good for your heart is almost always good for your erections. I want to pause here for a moment and speak directly to you, the man watching this. You might be tempted to feel embarrassed about this topic, or to think it's just part of getting old. Please hear me. You deserve to feel confident, happy, and fulfilled at any age. Your health and satisfaction matter. And if this message is resonating with you, I'd love for you to do two things. First, tap that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, so you never miss advice that could change your life. Second, if you're comfortable, leave a simple yes or no in the comments. Does this message speak to you? I personally read your comments, and your feedback helps me shape future videos to better serve men just like you. Let's get back to the heart of today's topic. Think of your erection as a signal, like the warning light on your car's dashboard. If things aren't working quite right, it's your body's way of telling you something needs attention, often your blood vessels. That's why improving your diet, especially with targeted foods like certain nuts, can make such a huge difference. And here's the best part. These aren't exotic or hard-to-find foods. You don't need to spend a fortune or chase down supplements with names you can't pronounce. Everything you need is right in your local supermarket, ready to support your health naturally. Let me paint a picture from my own experience as a urologist. I remember years ago, early in my career, I met a patient named Howard. He'd struggled with erectile issues for years and tried every medication on the market. But it wasn't until he cleaned up his diet, specifically by adding more nuts, seeds, and whole foods, that he started seeing real, lasting improvements. It wasn't magic, it was nutrition, working quietly and powerfully in the background. Back to Bill. After our initial conversation, I asked him to keep a simple food journal for 2 weeks, writing down everything he ate. When he brought it back, we reviewed it together. I noticed he was eating lots of processed foods, skipping breakfast, and rarely snacking on anything natural. We talked about easy swaps, replacing chips with a handful of walnuts, adding almonds to his oatmeal, even trying pistachios as a snack in the afternoon. Bill was skeptical, but he agreed to give it a shot. He said, "Doc, if this gets me back in the game, I'm all in." This is the moment where things started to shift. Bill wasn't just eating nuts for the sake of it. He was making a conscious choice to invest in his health, his marriage, and his self-confidence. Within weeks, he started noticing changes, not just in the bedroom, but in his energy levels, his mood, and even his sleep. His wife noticed too, and their relationship grew stronger as a result. It's incredible how interconnected our bodies are. When we give them the right building blocks, amazing things can happen. And the best part? These changes don't require a major overhaul or expensive interventions. They start with small, daily choices, like reaching for a handful of the right nuts instead of something processed. So if you're listening to this and thinking, maybe it's too late for me, I want you to know it's never too late to invest in yourself. You have the power to make changes, starting today, that can bring you more confidence, energy, and fulfillment. And as we continue, I'll share more about which nuts offer the most powerful benefits, why they work, and how to seamlessly fit them into your routine. But for now, just know that the journey to better erections, and a happier, more vibrant life after 60, can begin with something as simple as what you put on your plate. Now, I want to take a moment and address something I hear often from men in their 60s, 70s, and even into their 80s. There's this myth that when you reach a certain age, the best years of intimacy are behind you. That passion, desire, and even the physical ability to enjoy sex are just fading memories. I'm here to tell you, from decades of caring for men just like you, that this simply isn't true. Yes, our bodies change as we get older. But that doesn't mean you have to give up on having a strong, reliable erection or the kind of intimate relationship that brings you joy and connection. In fact, some of my most inspiring patients have found new confidence and even rekindled romance well after retirement. Take Bill, for example. I mentioned earlier how he started making small but meaningful changes to his diet, swapping out processed snacks for a handful of nuts each day. It wasn't about making a drastic shift overnight or following some complicated regimen. It was about consistency, giving his body what it needed, day in and day out. When he first started, Bill would joke with me about being a squirrel at the feeder, but pretty soon, he realized he wasn't just feeding a habit, he was fueling a transformation. Let's talk about why this works. There's a lot of science behind the idea that what we eat directly affects our ability to perform sexually. At the heart of it all is circulation. Healthy blood flow is essential for a strong erection, and the tiny blood vessels in the penis are among the first to show signs of trouble when our circulation isn't optimal. That's why things like high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and diabetes, common in men over 60, so often show up first as erectile difficulties. This is where nuts shine. Not all nuts are created equal, but several kinds, especially walnuts, almonds, pistachios, and Brazil nuts, are nutritional powerhouses for men's health. They're rich in healthy fats, which help lower bad cholesterol and support heart health. They're loaded with antioxidants, which fight inflammation and help protect your blood vessels. And perhaps most importantly, they provide essential amino acids like arginine, which your body uses to produce nitric oxide, the very compound that opens up blood vessels and allows for strong, sustained erections. One of the things I love about this advice is how practical and accessible it is. You don't need a prescription. You don't have to order anything online. Just a handful of these nuts each day, mixed into your breakfast, tossed into a salad, or even just eaten plain as a snack, can start making a difference. It's a small change with potentially life-changing results. I always tell my patients, you wouldn't put cheap gasoline in a classic car. Why do less for your own body? By choosing foods that support healthy blood vessels, you're investing in yourself and your well-being. Of course, some of my patients worry about calories or weight gain. That's a reasonable concern, especially if you're watching your waistline. The key is moderation. You don't need to eat a whole bag in one sitting. Just a small handful is enough. And if you're replacing less healthy snacks, you might even notice you feel more satisfied and less likely to reach for sugary or salty foods later on. Now, let's address another important point. Some men are skeptical. Maybe you've tried other natural remedies in the past and felt let down, or perhaps you've even given up hope that things can improve. That's where I encourage you to do what Bill did. Give yourself permission to try something new, and give it a little time. Bill wasn't convinced at first. He didn't believe that such a simple change could have a real impact. But after just a few weeks, he noticed a subtle shift. He had more energy throughout the day. He started sleeping better. Most importantly, he and his wife were enjoying each other's company again in ways they hadn't in years. If you're finding this message helpful, or if it gives you hope, I'd love for you to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. That helps more men find this information and empowers our community to live healthier, more fulfilling lives. And if you feel comfortable, leave a yes or no in the comments. Does this kind of simple, practical advice make sense to you? I read your comments and use them to shape the advice I share in future videos, so your feedback truly matters. Now, let's talk a bit more about the science, but I promise to keep it simple and relatable. There's a landmark study from Spain, published in a respected medical journal, that looked at men between the ages of 18 and 35. The researchers asked some of these men to add a handful of mixed nuts, walnuts, almonds, and hazelnuts, to their diet every day for 14 weeks. The results were impressive. The men who ate nuts saw significant improvements in sexual desire and function compared to those who didn't. While these men were younger than many of my patients, the takeaway is clear. Even in healthy adults, the nutrients found in nuts can boost the body's ability to respond sexually. So what about older men? I've seen similar results time and again in my own practice. For men over 60, these nutrients are just as important, maybe even more so. Our bodies naturally become less efficient at producing nitric oxide as we age, but by providing the right fuel, like arginine from nuts, we can support our body's own natural processes. Plus, the healthy fats in nuts support testosterone production, which can also decline with age and affect both libido and performance. Bill is a perfect example. After 2 months, he came back to my office with a big smile. He said, "Doc, I'm not just feeling younger, I feel like myself again." His energy was up, his confidence was back, and he and his wife were enjoying more closeness. He even reported his blood pressure had improved, and his doctor had praised his cholesterol levels. It wasn't a miracle, it was the power of nutrition, consistency, and a little faith in his own body's ability to heal and improve. I want you to imagine for a moment how your life could change if you gave your body the right support. Maybe you'd wake up feeling more rested, have more energy to enjoy hobbies, or reconnect with your spouse or partner in ways you haven't in years. Maybe you'd simply feel proud of yourself again, knowing you're taking steps to protect your health and happiness. It's never too late to start, and you don't have to do it alone. Our community is here for you, and I'm here to guide you every step of the way. So, if you're ready to make a positive change, start with something as simple as a handful of nuts a day. And remember, every step you take, no matter how small, is a step toward a stronger, more confident you. Let's take a moment to talk about the nuts themselves, the unsung heroes of men's health. I want you to picture Bill, now a few months into his new habit, strolling through the grocery store with his wife. He's no longer grabbing bags of potato chips or cookies. Instead, he's reaching for those familiar bags of walnuts, pistachios, almonds, and Brazil nuts. This little change has become a shared ritual between them, even sparking a bit of playful competition over who can come up with the tastiest ways to add nuts into meals. That's the kind of real, everyday change I see bringing couples closer and giving men a sense of ownership over their health. So what makes these particular nuts so special? Let's start with walnuts. They're absolutely packed with omega-3 fatty acids. These are the good fats that help keep your blood vessels flexible and your blood flowing smoothly. For men worried about performance, that flexibility and healthy circulation can make a world of difference. In my own practice, I've seen men who, after just a few weeks of including walnuts in their daily routine, notice not just more reliable erections, but also a boost in their overall mood and focus. That's because omega-3s don't just support the heart, they help your whole system run better. Then there's the humble almond. I can't count the number of times a patient has told me, "Doc, I thought almonds were just a snack." In reality, they're a quiet powerhouse, full of vitamin E, magnesium, and healthy monounsaturated fats. These nutrients help keep cholesterol in check and support healthy testosterone levels. Remember, testosterone isn't just about sex, it influences energy, motivation, and even your sense of well-being. Almonds are so easy to add to your diet. I often recommend tossing a small handful into your morning oatmeal or mixing them with yogurt and berries for a quick, satisfying snack. Now, let's not forget pistachios. There's something satisfying about the ritual of cracking open those little green gems. Pistachios are rich in plant compounds called phytosterols, which support heart health and help reduce bad cholesterol. But here's where they really shine. Pistachios are high in arginine, that amino acid I mentioned earlier, which the body converts into nitric oxide. A study published a few years ago showed that men who ate just 3 ounces of pistachios a day for 3 weeks experienced significant improvement in erectile function, without any changes to medication or exercise routines. That's a simple snack with powerful results. Brazil nuts are a bit less common, but they're worth seeking out. They're the best natural source of selenium, a mineral that plays a critical role in hormone production and sperm health. Just 1 or 2 Brazil nuts a day can provide all the selenium your body needs. I always remind my patients not to overdo it. More isn't always better, but adding a couple to your snack mix can offer a real boost for men's health. You don't have to pick just one nut. In fact, mixing it up can be fun and keep your taste buds interested. Bill and his wife started experimenting, sometimes walnuts with fruit, sometimes almonds in a salad, or pistachios on top of steamed vegetables. Not only did Bill start to feel stronger and more energetic, but he told me these simple changes brought a little spark of excitement back into their meals and their lives together. Now, a few practical tips from my years in the clinic. Choose nuts that are unsalted and unroasted whenever possible. Salted and heavily processed nuts might taste good, but too much salt can raise blood pressure, which works against your goal of healthy erections. Raw or dry roasted nuts are your best bet. And you don't have to eat a huge amount. A small handful, about a quarter cup, is plenty for most men. I often get asked, "Doc, what if I have trouble chewing?" That's a fair question. Many older adults have dental work or sensitive teeth. You can still get all the benefits of nuts by chopping them up, sprinkling them on foods, or even using natural nut butters. Just look for ones without added sugars or oils. Bill, by the way, became quite the advocate in his circle of friends. He started bringing little bags of mixed nuts to his weekly poker game, and soon enough, the guys were all swapping stories about how their energy, mood, and yes, even their love lives were improving. There's something powerful about taking charge of your health in a way that's simple, delicious, and even a little bit fun. If this conversation about real, everyday foods that support men's health is speaking to you, I'd love to see you give this video a like and hit subscribe. It helps our community grow and lets me know these topics matter to you. And again, just a quick yes or no in the comments. Have you tried adding any of these nuts to your daily routine? Your feedback truly shapes the advice I share, and I read every single comment because my goal is to give you the most useful, practical tips for your life. Of course, nuts are just one part of the bigger picture. Everything you do for your health adds up. Staying active, keeping your stress in check, getting enough sleep, and having open conversations with your doctor or partner. But I love starting with nuts because it's such an easy, positive change. No prescription needed, no fancy equipment, just something you can pick up at your local market and start using today. And let's not overlook the emotional impact. I remember Bill telling me one day, "Doc, I didn't realize how much I missed feeling like myself until I got it back." That sense of pride, of having a bit of control over your own well-being, is a gift at any age. As men, we're often told to tough things out or accept that decline is inevitable. But that's just not true. I've seen men in their 60s, 70s, and beyond reclaim their vitality and their joy in life by making choices as simple as reaching for a handful of nuts instead of a bag of chips. This is what I want for you. Not just a stronger body, but a renewed sense of connection, confidence, and happiness in the years ahead. No matter where you're starting from, you can take that first step today. So as you're planning your next grocery trip, remember the simple power of nature's little packages. They might just hold the key to feeling your best, not just in the bedroom, but in every part of your life. There's something truly special about witnessing the shift in a man's outlook when he realizes he still has power over his health, his relationships, and even his sense of masculinity. When Bill came in for his last follow-up, I could see the difference before he even spoke. He walked taller, he smiled wider, and there was a brightness in his eyes that only comes from knowing you're taking good care of yourself and seeing real results. His wife came along for that appointment, and I'll never forget the way she squeezed his hand and said, "Thank you, doctor. You've given us back a part of our marriage we thought was gone for good." As a urologist, I've spent more than 3 decades guiding men through the ups and downs of aging. I've seen firsthand how discouragement can set in when intimacy becomes challenging. For some, it can feel like a loss of identity, an unwelcome sign that time is marching on. But I always remind my patients, and I want to remind you today, that you are not powerless. Small, consistent choices, like adding those key nuts to your routine, can bring back not just physical health, but the sense of closeness and confidence that truly matter. Let's talk about what happens once you've made nuts a daily habit. For Bill, it started with simple changes. He kept a little bowl of mixed nuts on the kitchen counter, ready to grab when he was hungry. Over time, he began to notice he felt less sluggish in the afternoon. He was waking up more refreshed, and his blood pressure readings at home were improving. And yes, the private moments he shared with his wife were becoming more frequent and more satisfying. That's the kind of holistic improvement I want every man to experience. It's important to remember, too, that this isn't just about erections or sexual performance. It's about honoring your body, nurturing your mind, and sustaining the emotional connection with the people you love. When you give your body the nutrients it needs, those omega-3s, antioxidants, healthy fats, and minerals, you're laying the groundwork for resilience in all areas of life. I've seen men become more engaged with friends, start new hobbies, or rediscover joy in activities they'd set aside. It's all connected. I want to encourage you, if you haven't already, to take that first small step. Maybe it's picking up a bag of walnuts or pistachios on your next grocery run. Maybe it's talking with your partner about how you both can support each other in making healthy choices. Or maybe it's simply believing that you're worth the investment, that your health, happiness, and relationships deserve your attention. If this story has touched you, or if you're feeling a bit more hopeful about what's possible, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. And leave a yes or no in the comments. Has this message given you a new perspective? I read every response and use them to bring you the most practical, uplifting advice possible. Your voice helps me understand what you need most. Now, I know life after 60 brings its own set of challenges. Maybe you have medical conditions, maybe you've tried making changes before and felt discouraged when results were slow to appear. So as you move forward, be gentle with yourself. Celebrate each small victory, whether it's choosing a healthier snack, having an open conversation with your partner, or simply deciding to invest in your own well-being. These moments add up to a life that feels fuller, more connected, and more joyful. If you found value in this video, please like, subscribe, and tap that bell icon so you never miss an update. Leave a comment below with a simple yes or no. Does Bill's story resonate with you? I read every comment and I shape my future advice based on what you share. Remember, your journey matters, and you're never alone. Thank you for joining me today, and here's to feeling strong, confident, and truly alive, at any age.